name is Ruth Kimball, and project Go Behind the News, Validity and Credibility Grid. So the first story that I read about was the vicious assault shakes Texas town. The source of this was the New York Times. It was a journalist who was independent and had no self-interest in the story. As far as multiple sources or one source, there are multiple sources used in this article. Authorities, neighbors, a hospital worker, spokeswoman for the school district, and an affidavit filed to support each search warrant. This is an ongoing investigation, so the reporter would be more limited in getting information. Many involved sound like they were underage, which could limit information as well. It looks like the reporter tried to balance or be proportionate, and using any sources he could. You can't always gain access to all sources, especially because it was an ongoing case. And verifies versus asserts. These are not his facts or evidence. This reporter is using information that was obtained from official police records, from school or hospital officials. He's asserting the information he obtained, and an affidavit does not mean a person is guilty, nor does someone talking about the situation that was not present when it happened. People tend to accept these sources as truthful. With this case, the beginning stages of development, this is all the information the reporter could have, and he had done nothing to verify any of the information in the records or affidavit. Authoritative and informed versus uninformed. The article seems to be informed. You can tell research was done, resources found. While I feel this was a one-sided view of what had transpired, I can't deny that there were multiple sources used and that many areas that could contribute information were utilized. Named versus unnamed. Most sources were named in this article. Many of the neighbors said they had not wanted to go on record. They were likely the residents who were unnamed talked about the young girl undressing, acting older than her age, along with hanging out with the teenage boys. This person didn't want to be identified, understandably. In my opinion, this story seems credible. While I'm sure not all the evidence is as accurate as it should be, I think people would be convinced that this situation actually did happen. There's evidence presented and reports that would lead anyone to believe an assault took place. The circumstances that surround how this happened are where the credibility would fall short. This is a one-sided story. There was not one person who could speak for or in defense of any of the accused. Could this reporter have gotten any information that gave some insight into some of the accused side of things? As an uneducated reader, this story would leave me to think everyone involved is guilty, with nothing to counter the accusations. 18 suspects make this a very big investigation. And I do not believe that this would be considered news. It was an independent, non-self-interested party. The information provided can be verified, but this story was told in the preliminary stages, so some of the facts presented or assumed may be incorrect. This seems to be unfiltered information. The reporter seemed more interested in telling an exciting, breaking story than in telling both sides. He uses information he has access to, but a lot of this is someone else's claim and may not be the truth. The next story that I chose was the Walmart announces Great For You food labeling initiative. Walmart has created this video and would have self-interest in the story. They're promoting their new Great For You labels. So it's definitely a Walmart commercial, kind of a There's only one source used in the video. Everyone is associated with Walmart. There is no fair balance here. The only opinion and information was from Walmart, was from a Walmart source. There are no facts presented. This is being asserted. Anyone trying to persuade or sell you something should be questioned. This is uninformed. There's no actual facts presented. The only statistics provided are the amount of money Walmart has saved customers by having them buy their products instead of more expensive healthy food. They do not even show you a picture of the nutrition facts on the label. Everything is generalized and no facts to inform us. Named versus unnamed. There's no named sources of information. There's talk about consulting with food and nutrition experts, but we do not know who these are. They even talk about how they're partnering with manufacturers to reduce sugar and sodium in packaged food, but again, there's no mention of any names, nor you don't see labels. I believe that this story is credible and that it is real and Walmart's actually working to make their foods better. I do not believe their claim that this is, in fact, makes the food healthy or good for you. I find that misleading without any actual nutritionist being interviewed or doctors to say how healthy it is. As someone who is a label reader and very devoted to removing chemicals and food preservatives from my diet and for my family, I was left wondering what the criteria were when they talked about developing. They mentioned working with food and nutrition experts, but did not give any names. They only talk about two items, sugar and sodium, that they have been reducing in the packaged food. I would like to know more what qualifies these food items as being labeled good for you. So those are some of the questions that I was left with after seeing that video. This does not qualify as news because it is not independent. This could be propaganda as it attempts to persuade. It could be publicity as it enhances the product image. It also is advertising since they're trying to sell you on the product or service. The final story that I read about was the video is the manhunt for Boston bombing suspect continues. The source for this was CBS News. This is an independent story. There was no self-interest or stake in this story. Multiple sources, one source. The story has multiple sources being interviewed, comments from the Boston Police Commissioner, the Massachusetts State Police, a doctor from Beth Israel, amateur video footage, and an interview from a bystander. Verifies versus asserts. All the information presented is verified, and the other sources that were included, a doctor backs up the statement that a patient was brought in with gunshot wounds, but it is stated by the reporter that hospital officials could not confirm if he was the suspect in question. The Boston Police Commissioner gives his statement, and the department's thoughts on how they believe the suspects are terrorists wanting to do harm. All the subject matter seems to be verified by the person who said it is coming directly from them. This is an authoritative and informed. There are personal accounts and sources, everything included for most everything in this report, almost everything. Even the statements that would be considered exaggeration, such as stating that there have been an army of officers piling into the area, were backed up with visuals later on that shows videos of officers filing out of a residence to back up that claim. Named versus unnamed. Most of the sources are named. They're interviewed and speak for themselves. The only source I found unnamed was the source of the amateur video capturing some of the shootout that occurred. And in my opinion, this story is credible. The reporter seems to be giving information that has sources that are trustworthy. Police officers and doctors are giving you the most current information available to them. These are updates and recounts of the situation from people and officials in charge of handling it. I didn't have any questions after watching the story. I felt I was given information on how the situation began, developed, and where it left us. This was presented very clear and with facts that were available at the time, and I felt it was well informed. I believe that this video is news and is independent. There is accountability to what was being said and by whom, and they're verified information by letting us hear it from the source with footage and of the sources speaking. And I now have a couple of sources myself here, and I think Luna wants to tell us her side of the story. She'll be the next reporter.